Hello, my friends, and thank you for joining Internet Stories today. Like always, we have some really juicy stories. Today, we have three stories from ProRevenge. Our first story is about a guy who did not like being screwed over by his boss, so he got the State Labor Board involved, and the State Labor Board seeked malicious revenge. Our second story is a great story about an old school teacher using some new school tricks to catch a whole bunch of students cheating on their exams. The third and final story is about a college love and a lady who goes full out crazy. Guys, always stay away from the crazy ladies. Also, I really like the part where her parents hired a lawyer for a disciplinary board meeting, which is not a court of law, where the same rules do not apply. Like, the lawyer can't just say, I object, because that's not a thing. So sit back and enjoy. This story is called Killed a Tow Company with One Simple Phone Call. I killed an entire tow company with one phone call. Several years back, I went to work for a tow company. It's about all I know how to do other than paint cars, which is drastically affecting my health. The pay was pretty decent, but we had to share trucks, and the boss felt that he knew where we needed to sit in order to get the best calls. This is important for later. Several months in, I realized that I was not making the type of money that I should be making. So I took the opportunity while I was sitting in a parking lot one evening to start researching the laws pertaining to employees in similar positions. He was kind of an ass, and the trucks had transponders so that he could see if we had them idling with the air conditioner on during a hot day or idling with the heat on during a cold night. He was always calling, complaining about something if the wheels were not turning. During my research, I discovered that if he required us to sit in a certain parking lot, street, or any location of his choosing, then we were entitled to be paid an hourly wage and not just commission. The technical term was engaged to wait. However, if he allowed us to freely roam about while we waited for calls, we were not entitled to hourly wages, and we were, therefore, considered waiting to be engaged. I never mentioned this to him, but I did start taking note of my time. Another month or so goes by, and he decided to start coming down on me for tiny little BS. Things that ordinarily wouldn't even bother me, such as I forgot a pop can in the cup holder. He actually had a screaming fit about that. At this point, I was tired of working there and had already found another job, so I decided it was time to put my plan into motion. I called him up, told him that we needed to have a conversation about my final wages, and that we could meet at his convenience. Upon entering the office, I laid out my argument. I explained the state law and told him I expected to be paid for the hours that I was on the clock, but not freely allowed to roam looking for work or able to do things of my choosing. He told me in no uncertain terms would I be paid for that time, as that was agreed to upon my employment. I did not bother to argue, as I already had my next step planned. So I took my final check and I left. The following Monday, I made a phone call to the State Labor Board, where I laid out my case to them. Needless to say, they were very interested in what was going on. In the end, they came to review his employment records and speak to the driver still working. When he got the bill of what he had to pay us all, it was too much for him to afford. So he sold all the trucks, his boat, the tow lot, and went out of business. I never got the money owed to me in full, only a fraction of the money, but the satisfaction of knowing the law was just a little better than he was, and watching it burn was pure bliss. Yeah, the state really frowns upon companies taking advantage of the employees. It's no good to ever take advantage of the little guy just because you're in power. Don't ever take advantage of anyone. This story is called Not My Revenge, but My Professor Against Cheaters. I took the final for an engineering class this morning. Usually 1 or 2 people will go to the bathroom during class. However, for totally unknown reasons, about half the class needed to use the restroom during the exam. Obviously, a vast majority of them were looking up the answers on their phones. This irritated me, but I just stayed focused and barely finished since it was a really hard exam. I remember that there was one particular problem that was only barely related to the stuff we went over in class, where part A was fairly easy, but I had no idea how to do part B. I didn't fret over too much though, since that part was only 5 points out of 100. Well, our professor is a bit on the older side, and I would have thought was someone ignorant of technology, sent us an email just explaining his diabolical plan to catch cheaters. Many of the students in his class use Chegg, a website that has answers to lots of homework questions, if you're not familiar. To be fair, I have an account too, though. I only use it for studying and checking homework solutions. Anyway, he explained that he was tired of people going to the bathroom and looking up answers on their phones, so he made the question I mentioned earlier as a trap. He purposely made Part B impossible to solve, and about a month before the final, got a TA with a Chegg account to ask the exact question, which was distinctly worded to be unique. He then created his own Chegg account and answered the question with a bullshit solution that seems right at first glance, but is actually fundamentally flawed and very unlikely that someone would make the same assumptions and mistakes independently. He said that out of 99 exams, 14 of them fell for the trap, and that everyone who had his wrong solution on the exam was given a 0 and reported to the university for violating the academic honor pledge they signed on the front. He also sent an email to all the other professors in our department, giving them the list of cheaters. Also, the teacher gave full credit on Part B of the question to everyone else. I mean, I gotta admit, that's a pretty genius move of the teacher to put in an impossible question, but put the answer there where he knows all the cheaters are gonna find it. There's no going around that you can just point out, you copied it. Sorry, bye-bye. This story is called Fairly Aggressive Girlfriend Stole from My Bank Account, so I sent her academic career into a nosedive. I'm a senior at a large state university. This happened in the first semester of my freshman year. I was selected for an honors type program that placed me in a co-ed dorm building with every other student in the program. As a dumb freshman, I rushed into a relationship with a freshman girl who lived right above me. We'll call her Megan. It was convenient for me to date someone who lived so close, but everyone else in our building hated Megan because she talked a lot, and almost exclusively about herself. She bragged often about being a fairly aggressive person, but somehow I overlooked that mile-wide red flag. Right after Thanksgiving break, after an evening class, I got a call from my mom who noticed some unusual activity on my checking account. Back then, I had no credit card, so this account debit card was my only access to my savings while I lived on campus. I rarely needed to buy anything during the semester, so I was puzzled to find that $104.29 had left my bank account over 2 weeks in the form of 6 Grubhub food orders. At this point, I trusted Megan, but I decided to ask her about the money right away. She denied any involvement and suggested that I cancel my debit card. After a really long phone call to the bank, I did just that. Next, I reached out to Grubhub customer service on Twitter. Hey, My card was stolen and used for food orders on these dates. Can I have the receipts? They sent me the first and last receipts, but they had to redact the personal info of the account holder. I say redact in quotes because they just used the Snapchat draw tool, and Megan's name was still clearly visible on both receipts. What's more, the most recent receipt was only 2 hours old. She was probably still eating when I cut up my debit card. It's worth noting that she and I both had unlimited dining plans paid for by our respective parents, and we lived 500 feet from the nearest dining hall. She didn't need to order food, and she definitely didn't need my money to do it. So I texted her again. I have the receipts from Grubhub. Are you sure you didn't make those orders? Her reply was, F you for suspecting me. Fairly aggressive, wouldn't you say? I hatched a plan to collect the security cam footage of her picking up the order from that evening. However, by midnight, Megan arrived at my door in tears and confessed to everything. Plus, she admitted to being a serial shoplifter. Exhausted, I sent her away and decided to deal with everything in the morning. By the next day, everyone in our building seemed to know what was going down, probably because Megan had already begun broadcasting her version of the story. I sent Megan a breakup text and decided that the $104.29 was a loss. At least I escaped unscathed, right? Well, less than 2 days later, she entered my room when I wasn't looking. I was sitting at my desk when I noticed her standing silently behind me. Megan, give me my stuff. Where's my stuff? Me? What stuff? Megan, you know. I did not know. She tore through the room, looking for something that she refused to identify. Just as quick as she came, she was gone. And I locked the door because obviously this wasn't over yet. Within a minute, she was back. She stood outside my door, knocking and demanding I let her back inside. The knocking quickly became more violent. She started shouting, You know you're effing in there! And, Open the mother effing door! Mind that we lived in this building with students in our program who all know each other, and all of them could hear her. Pretty quickly, Megan was rattling the handle of my door. Next, she began throwing herself at it, shoulder first, trying to break it down. I lived next door to my RA, but judging by the lack of any intervention, he was elsewhere. So I whipped out my phone and texted him to send backup. Meanwhile, I saw a heavy wooden door, bending and buckling. I even heard it crack a bit. My RA was on duty in another building, so he sent 3 of his colleagues to de-escalate the situation. They brought Megan downstairs, where she revealed that the stuff she wanted was the t-shirt and keychain that she gave me for my birthday. Whatever, I let her have those. I still just wanted this to be over. However, once I shared my story with the resident life staff, they filed university paperwork to place a no-contact order between me and Megan. They also recommended I contact the campus police, who then told me I should get my stolen money back in small claims court. I couldn't even get there without a car or money to pay for an Uber. Sorry, Judge Judy. At the request of campus police, I also contacted the Title IX office at my school, sending them the story of everything you've read so far. They were interested, to say the least, although I didn't want any trouble. I just wanted a clean breakup and a fresh start. But a Title IX representative informed me that they were bringing 3 misconduct charges against Megan: theft, threatening violent behavior, and inciting an intervention by university staff. The representative asked me to serve as a witness in Megan's disciplinary hearing the next semester. I tentatively agreed, right before the representative sent me the hearing date for February 14th, Valentine's Day. I thought it was a joke, but they really did mean February 14th. When the day of the hearing finally arrived, the no contact order was still in effect. But a few of my friends had kept tabs on Megan. For starters, she failed all of her classes in the fall. Someone in my math course confessed that Megan had tried to sleep with him while she was dating me, and he had to repeatedly tell her no. Even worse, Megan kept telling a twisted version of the whole story to try and turn my friends against me. So when I found out that she had a new boyfriend, it felt good to know that Valentine's Day disciplinary hearing ruined whatever evening plans they might have made. I arrived alone at the disciplinary board office, unsure of what to expect. The board consists of grad students, and the hearing was expected to run into the night. Unlike me, Megan did not come alone. She brought both of her parents as character witnesses. That wasn't even a thing there. This wasn't a real courtroom, as you'll soon see. And that's not all. Megan's parents also paid a lawyer to defend her against the charges. The board knew that was unnecessary, but Megan's parents believed so strongly in their daughter's innocence that they had already paid this three-piece suit to make her case. In the name of fairness, the board members offered me pro bono legal representation. A junior economics major, who we'll call Jimmy. Jimmy had already read my account of events from the fall, and thanks to my screenshots of Grubhub receipts, he said that was an okay shot of the charges sticking. I then told him something I'd kept secret for months. When Megan tried to break down my door and I whipped out my phone to text my RA, I also filmed the whole thing. Jimmy couldn't get enough of the video. There was Megan, kicking and screaming, and clearly trying to break into my dorm room. It was all the evidence I needed, and no one saw it coming. In the hearing, when the time came for me to make my case against Megan, Jimmy played the video on a big screen in front of everyone. The room went insane. In that instant, I realized that Megan really had convinced everyone I was a liar. In her version of the story, I gave her permission to buy food using my account. She told her parents that she'd asked me politely for her belongings, which I'd rudely hidden from her in my room. In Megan's story, I was the psychopath trying to ruin her reputation. Before I unveiled the video, it was her word against mine. I still didn't want revenge, even after finding out that Megan tried to cheat on me. But when I saw her parents flipping out at the video, "Why didn't you tell us you did this?" and her lawyer raising hell, "This evidence was not provided in the pre-trial disclosure," and a board member standing over him, "Sir, this is not a court of law. Please return to your seat." And him shouting, "Objection!" in her reply, "We don't have objections. This is not a court of law." And Jimmy, my new best friend, just tried not to laugh out loud. That was when I realized how good revenge can feel when it's fair and deserved. The board found Megan responsible on all 3 charges. My side of the bench recommended the university terminate her housing contract, force her to pay restitution. Her side recommended only restitution and a reprimand. The board compromised. Her family paid back most of the money she stole, because 2 of the 6 orders had the same price, and the lawyer convinced the board I had duplicated the orders, and Megan was forced to move into a different dorm building. This probably wouldn't have helped her anyway, because every student in our program's building knew everything she'd done and lied about. They wouldn't speak to her, and no one wanted to be her roommate. By the time she had to move buildings, she already failed all of her courses again. Having paid for her tuition, her unused dining plan, her lawyer, and her restitution, Megan's parents finally pulled her out of school. Where are they now? Last I heard, Megan returned as a part-time student, but I never saw her again because the no contact order still stands. I'm now Facebook friends with the guy Megan tried to seduce. Oh, and Jimmy and I connected on LinkedIn. As for me, well, I no longer date fairly aggressive people. Yeah, that girl sounds more than fairly aggressive. She sounds like what you call a crazy lady. You know, you make the mistake once and you swear to never date crazy chicks again. It just leads to no good, very bad time. Thank you, my friends, for joining Internet Stories today and listening to some crazy stories from ProRevenge with me. I hope you liked all of them. Please like and subscribe for more future stories, and please let me know in the comments if any of these stories sound familiar.